Just because I'm a farmer doesn't mean I work at the farm store I use at the Easter de Droth. I don't typically wear my work clothes when I go to town for feed, but an ADHD-created emergency forced me to drive to our local feed and seed without time to change. I was still wearing what my partner and I jokingly call farm drag when I got there. This attire was dirty with numerous unmentionable animal substances and does not include the very noticeable blue vest that the employees there wear. As I was loading a sack of hog feed onto my cart, a silver-haired lady approached and asked me, "Excuse me, young man, do you sell salt licks? I'm 53 and my full beard is all grey. BTW. I replied, "No ma'am, I sell duck eggs and baked goods." She lit up. Oof, she cooed. "Where are those?" "At my farm." There was a beat of silence between us as I grinned at her. In a pleasant twist, she suddenly had a spark of awareness and softly chuckled as she blushed. "You don't work here, do you?" I told her that I didn't and she apologized while chuckling about the whole thing. I'm glad they're not all jerk-kisses about it. "No, I don't work for the campground. My father and I operate a small excavation/landscaping business, so it's pretty uncommon for me to be mistaken as anything else, but there is a campground nearby where it happens so often it stopped being funny and started to be annoying. You see, the people in the campground own their sites, and so are responsible for any general maintenance or improvements on their site. They often call us to do things like building stone driveways, or building stone pads for sheds, or just general landscaping. Now the campground itself has employees, including some younger guys who maintain the roadways with small landscaping tractors. I also use a small landscaping tractor in my work, so I understand the confusion, and most times I am pretty polite about any misunderstanding. Typically, they just have some question about their power or cable service, and I inform them that I'm a private company and I don't work for the campground. A few days ago I am working there, building a driveway for a lady, and as usual I am wearing my noise-cancelling headphones while I do my tractor work, as they do double duty for hearing protection/entertainment. I generally work alone, and I don't like being bothered. At some point I hear a car honk, so I turn to look and there's a man hanging out of a truck on the roadway near me, gesticulating with his hands and moving his mouth. It's pretty obvious he's been trying to get my attention for some time just from his general state of agitation. So I remove my headphones and shut the tractor off and say, "Hey, what's going on, man?" He says something along the lines of, "It's pretty hard to talk to you when you're wearing those headphones," and I give him a friendly smile and say that's the idea jokingly. It's clear from the look on his face that he doesn't find this joke very funny at all. "Well, I have a question to ask you, Huss." I give him a blank, unaffected stare and say, "Okay," and he starts talking about how the water isn't turned on his lot and he needs to cook and take a shower, blah, blah, blah. Why isn't his water on? At this point I'm kind of assuming he thinks I work late, but he has an attitude and I am in no mood to make this easy for him now. I say calmly and stare at him. He fumes silently for a few seconds and then asks impatiently, "Well," and I shrug at him and say, "Well, what?" He throws his hands up in exasperation and yells, "How do I get my water turned on?" And I give him a confused look and say, "I got no clue, buddy." "Well, can you find someone who does?" He shuts. "Nope." I say flatly, taking a swig from my water bottle while wearing a bored expression. He looks around, almost in as anyone else seeing this kind of look, and then says, "I think I'm gonna go find your boss." I smirk and say good luck with that and put my headphones back on as he fumes and drives away. Not sure if he ever found the campground owner or got his water turned on, but I didn't see him again, lol. Bonus feel good story. This was a few years ago in the same campground. As I was working, a sweet little old lady walked over to the campsite I was at and said very politely, "Excuse me, sir." So I stopped and said, "Yes, ma'am. Can I help you?" She gestured to her own campsite a little ways away. It had a small trailer on it, and she pointed to a large tree branch on the roof. "A branch fell on my roof, and I can't get it down. Could you help me? I have a ladder." I smiled at her and said, "Absolutely, I can," and proceeded to climb up there and throw it down. When I was done, she said, "Oh, thank you so much. I'll be sure to tell Lane who owns the campground what a nice guy you are." And I laughed a bit and said, "Well, I don't actually work for Lane," and she looked incredibly embarrassed and started apologizing profusely, but I told her it was fine and I was happy to help. She went inside and got me a soda, insisting I take it, so I did. My good deed for the day, haha. Morale of the story: ask nicely and you'll get help. Make assumptions and get mad, and I'll screw with you for the fun of it. But you're wearing a uniform. Doesn't mean I work here, lady. Context: I used to work at a place where my uniform looked like a flight attendant's, but not 100%, and the colors were white and navy blue. The store name is written on the front in blue and yellow letters. The grocery store near mine has a black uniform, pants and vest with some red details. I was at the grocery store during my break and an old lady 60/70-ish came up to me and said she needed help finding an item. I told her that I didn't work there and that I wouldn't be able to help, but that I knew there was always an employee by the cereal aisle and she could ask them. She then says, "If you don't know, what are you even doing here? What do they pay you for?" I pointed at my uniform logo and said again, "Ma'am, I don't work here," and she had a confused look and said, "But you're in uniform." I had to politely tell her that just because I was in uniform didn't mean I worked there and pointed at the logo again, and I left after. A teacher, but a teacher in another school. I was a high school teacher in a big urban school district, but live in a suburban school district. It was parent/teacher conference night for my elementary school son. I'm well dressed in my school garb, high school polo shirt, khakis, and line out with school ID. I was walking the hallway to get to my kid's room. A typical suburban mom with a designer everything and horrible voice gave me the throat clear followed by squeaky "excuse me." It's always a hard day teaching high school in the hood, and I gave an eye roll and just said, "Yes." "Where is Miss Smith's room?" "I have no idea." "You work here, how do you not know?" "I don't work here and I don't know." "You are rude and I'm speaking to the principal about you." Evil compliance ensues. I have paper and pen, so I write down my name, my room number, room 435. It's a one-floor school, and for an extension. "Please go now and tell the principal that I have no time and less patience to deal with you and anybody like you." On the way out of the building, the principal is wishing everyone a good night as they exit. He looks at me and says, "You're killing me." I reply, "With the big bucks comes the big headaches." Growth seeking grudge by user NGHVRHDPHDGRPHR. So I was at the Home Depot after work. Needed to grab some outdoor sealant for a little project I was tackling at home. I was wearing a bright orange t-shirt, purely coincidental. It's just a comfy shirt, nothing to do with blending in with the Home Depot staff. I had my nose buried in the sealant aisle, trying to decipher the difference between silicone and acrylic latex plus silicone when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and there he was. Let us call him Ken. He had that slightly stressed out, impatient air about him. "Excuse me," Ken said, his voice a little too loud for the quiet aisle. "Do you work here?" I looked down at my very non-Home Depot branded orange t-shirt and then back at him. No, I don't, just trying to figure out this sealant stuff." Ken huffed like I was personally inconveniencing him. "Well, someone needs to help me. I've been looking for grout in desert sand for 20 minutes, and nobody seems to know where it is." I pointed vaguely down the aisle. "Grout's usually over that way, near the tiles." Ken rolled his eyes. "Obviously, I know it's near the tiles, but they don't have desert sand. I asked the guy over by the lumber, and he just pointed in a different direction. Honestly, the customer service here is atrocious." Now, I just wanted to find my sealant and get out, but Ken was blocking the aisle and radiating frustration. "Yeah, that can be annoying," I offered neutrally. "Maybe try asking someone with an actual orange apron on. They usually know this stuff better." Ken glared at me. "You're wearing an orange shirt. You work here. Don't try to pawn me off on someone else. Just tell me where the desert sand grout is." At that exact moment, a Home Depot employee wearing the full orange apron and a name tag that read Brenda walked past us pushing a flat cart loaded with bags of concrete mix. "Excuse me, Brenda," I said, relieved for the interruption. "This gentleman is looking for desert sand grout and hasn't been able to find it." Brenda stopped and gave Ken a friendly smile. "Hi there, desert sand grout. We usually keep that in aisle 8, about halfway down on the left, near the other sanded grouts. If we're out, there might be some overstock on the top shelf." Ken stared at Brenda, then back at my perfectly ordinary orange t-shirt. A flicker of something that might have been embarrassment crossed his face, but it vanished quickly. "Well, someone should really organize this place better," he grumbled, then huffed past Brenda and me towards aisle 8. Brenda and I exchanged a brief, knowing glance. She just shrugged and continued on her way. I finally grabbed my sealant, chuckling to myself.